What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Spider-Man video. Spider-Man games are absolutely littered with Easter eggs hinting to the existence of other Marvel characters. Some Easter eggs are subtle, some not so subtle. In this video, I'll be talking about the characters that I want/think should be introduced in the upcoming sequel, and this list will be based on the existing Easter eggs in the Spider-Man PS4 game and the Miles Morales game. So although I would love for someone like Deadpool to turn up, I'm not aware of any Easter eggs that hint at his appearance. Just to be clear, this is not a list that guarantees these characters will turn up. It's the ones that I personally want to see, which are predicated on the existence of those Easter eggs. Also, there are characters that are hinted at in these games that just won't simply make the list because I don't think they will be a good fit for the grounded universe that Insomniac is building. Such characters like Spider-Pig or the Inhumans. So with all of that out of the way, let's get into the list. I hope that some of these characters do have a cameo. At the very least, I would love for them to do what they did in Spider-Man 1 on the PS1, where they just have certain heroes and characters pop up. That way you know that other characters exist in the world, however it will still remain a Spider-Man centric game and story. Let's get into the list. As always, if you like the video, please go ahead and leave it a like and subscribe to the channel for more gaming content, but let's go with number 1. Reed Richards. Reed Richards, or Mr. Fantastic as some of you would know him as, is one of the 4 members to Marvel's first family, the Fantastic Four. There have already been hints to Reed Richards through the Spider-Man games. When you first open the game, there is a post-it note reminder for Peter with the initials RR, Reed Richards. This game has an Empire State University, and for those of you who don't know, several people from Marvel have attended the university, such as Peter Parker himself, Eddie Brock, Dr. Doom, and Mr. Fantastic. One of the suits is a massive hint to the Fantastic Four with the bombastic Bagman costume, and in the comics, Reed is the one to tell Peter about the symbiote suit. So it would make sense for him to show up if they want to be comic accurate regarding the black suit Spider-Man that they're most likely going to be introducing into this second game. This introduction of Mr. Fantastic, or as we would know him as Reed, would be a great introduction and opportunity to then expand his story in a separate standalone game where you can also be introduced to the other members of the Fantastic Four. If they are going to go ahead and introduce Reed Richards in this game, and by extension some other members of the Fantastic Four, I would love to have Johnny Storm be introduced into the game as well, because Spider-Man and Johnny Storm have an amazing relationship in the comics. Their banter is hilarious, and even in the Ultimate Spider-Man game, you actually get to race him, which was a super fun mission. I would love to have Reed Richards be introduced into the game and see what he can bring to the table. Next character, Daredevil. Probably the character I want most on this list, mainly because I do want a Daredevil spin-off game. I would absolutely love for Daredevil to turn up, and I feel like he would be probably the best fit for this grounded world that's being built by Insomniac. There are already a bunch of Easter eggs to Daredevil in this game, such as the Nelson and Murdoch Attorney at Law building. There's business cards as a collectible, there's even a Fogwell gym in Hell's Kitchen. Both the gym and the Hell's Kitchen are massive hints toward Daredevil, as both of those are very prevalent in his story. One of the main villains in Spider-Man PS4 was Kingpin as well, which is also quite a large Daredevil villain, so it really just makes sense for Daredevil to actually turn up in the sequel. The next character is Eddie Brock. For those of you who have watched my last few Spider-Man videos, you know that I do prefer Eddie as my Venom over Harry, who it seems will be taking up the mantle in the sequel game. Now, Eddie is already a part of this world, however from what I've seen, there is only really one main Easter egg hinting at Eddie Brock's existence, and it's on this good luck card that says "Great working with you" from Eddie Brock. As they are introducing the black suit and the symbiote, it would be my preference that Eddie at some point gets the black suit and becomes Venom, but if that's not going to be a possibility, I would just love to have him pop up in the world and share some experiences and dialogue with Peter. The next one, and it might be a little bit of a stretch, but it ties in with the Fantastic Four / Reed Richards one I mentioned before, but Dr. Doom. For those of you who aren't aware, there actually are a few Easter eggs that loosely relate to Dr. Doom himself. He attended the Empire State University, as we said before. However, there were also several mentions of a country known as Symkaria in both the Spider-Man and the Miles Morales game. In the Miles Morales game, Peter takes a vacation to Symkaria, which is where the Silver Sable is originally from. Now you might be asking, what does Symkaria have to do with Doom? Well, looking at the map, you can see that the adjacent country to Symkaria is none other than the home of Dr. Doom himself, Latveria. Dropping Symkaria being so close to Latveria, as well as the Easter eggs that are prevalent there for the Fantastic Four or hinting to Reed Richards, it would make for an excellent opportunity to flesh out Peter's holiday to Symkaria and start dropping some more Doctor Doom Easter eggs. Maybe he can talk about Latveria being a super scary country or run by a madman, who knows. I do think that Doctor Doom is a little bit of a stretch for a character to turn up. He does seem like a massive villain and not so much a Spider-Man villain. But on the other hand, they are dropping a lot of Easter eggs that do relate to the Fantastic Four and Doom himself. So at the very least, I would love for Victor to turn up, for Reed Richards to turn up, and I guess I'm being a little bit too hopeful, but to have that tie into their own spin-off game. Moving on, I want someone from the Avengers to turn up. We can mostly agree that the Marvel's Avengers game was a little bit poopy. There definitely is a fun game in there, and apparently the War for Wakanda update is great, but in general I personally found the game to be a massive letdown at its release. Thankfully, it has been confirmed that Marvel's Avengers does not and will not tie into Insomniac's Spider-Man games. This means that if Insomniac wanted to bring their own version of the Avengers in, it would be completely free of other continuities, and it would be solely their visions of the characters they choose. With what they've been able to do with Spider-Man, I would be very interested in seeing them tackle and seeing their takes on other Avenger members. Now, there are also a ton of Avengers Easter eggs in the two Spider-Man games hinting to their existence. One of the main ones obviously is the Avengers Tower itself, probably one of the tallest buildings in the game, very hard to miss. You also have the Wakanda Embassy for the Black Panther, you have the Sanctum Sanctorum for Doctor Strange, and there's also a post-it note saying call TS back regarding job offer, heavily hinting at TS being Tony Stark. So you get the idea, these characters in some capacity do exist in this world. In terms of who I would personally want to have as cameos or appearances from the Avengers team, keeping in mind I don't want Spider-Man or his story to be overshadowed by such large characters, I would love for Cap to show up. I was always a little disappointed that in the movies, Spider-Man and Cap didn't really share that much screen time together when he does spend a lot of time with Cap in the comics. I've always loved their relationship and would love to see it in the game. Cap would also work really well with this grounded world that's being built, and I think that he would be, like Daredevil, a perfect fit for this world. I'd also love if Bruce Banner turned up, not as a Hulk, but just somewhere in a science lab. Maybe even make it an Easter egg, but make it very unclear if he can turn into the Hulk or not. Maybe put in a little Easter egg about not making him angry, or someone stole his lunch and it made them angry, something like that, and leave it at a very surface level Easter egg so fans can start to speculate. Now, if we're going to mix in some X-Men with some traditional Avengers members, like what happens from time to time in the comics, you can't go past my boy Wolverine, like in one of my all-time favorite Spider-Man games, Web of Shadows. Just a side note guys, I am thinking of doing a video on my top 5 Spider-Man games, so do let me know if that is something that you would be interested in seeing. I can work on that if there is an interest for it. But going back to Wolverine, we all know Wolverine has an amazing relationship with Spider-Man. The banter's funny, the situations they find themselves in are hilarious, and I would just like to see a version of that in a game. But as you can see from this list, the developers of Spider-Man have put in a lot of seeds for characters to potentially show up in a sequel. As I said before, my hope is that they do turn up in a cutscene or some kind of minor exchange with Peter Parker or Spider-Man, maybe have a few side missions. However, I just don't want them to overshadow Peter Parker's story or have them shift the main focus off the actual story itself. Because those are the characters that I want to turn up based on the existing Easter eggs. Do let me know what characters you want turning up in the sequel game. Do you agree or disagree with my list? Did I miss out on any characters that you were wanting yourself? Let me know in the comment section down below. As always, if you did like the video, please go ahead and leave it a like. It really does help out. And thank you so much for the support for the last few videos. They have been going crazy. And also, if you do want more gaming content, as always, subscribe to the channel to get more of that. But until then, stay safe out there, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.